Yellow, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to start out with a magic trick. I am going to show you how you can turn these iron ingots into this redstone dust. So let's get to it. Okay, so now that we've rolled the intro, full disclosure, we're not going to do any actual magic. I mean, yep. But we are going to go ahead and use these idiots. Oh, sorry, did I say idiots? Oh, what I meant to say, what they're actually called in the game, if you look in the code, is idiots. But I feel like we often forget that villagers are so freaking useful for just generic things that we talk about what multiple ways we could do farms for. I mean, redstone dust, very important for any technical player. And all we can do is come over here and we can just turn these 12 iron into 12 emeralds, come over to this guy, turn those 12 emeralds into 24 redstone dust. Boom. If we just repeat that over and over again, we've got thousands and thousands of redstone dust. Not to mention the XP we actually get out of this. So I actually cleared my XP bar. I do those trades there. I'm already up to level 4. Those trades there, I'm already up to level 7. You do this a few times, you can get more XP out of just a little iron farm than farming the dragon. Now, there's no real problem here to be solved. This is 100% going to be a first world problem video. But what do you do when you don't want to have a giant villager hall that you have to walk around in? You have to walk over to this guy, and then over to this guy, and then the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy. Like my finger is hurting from pressing the A and D keys. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. So I was watching Dave Guy on Twitch, and I've mentioned it before. We actually did a collab video with him, and I like his approach to Redstone of making some stuff fun that doesn't necessarily solve a problem that you can't solve with just some more space. But why not have some fun with redstone? So he was working on this idea of a villager Pez dispenser, as he called it, that would just kind of cycle villagers past you. Now, mind you, it wasn't like this. I mean, this would be terrible for trading. Quick, trade with me. I love you. And if you want to see what he was working on with that, go over to his YouTube, check out his world tour, where at the time of creating this, you could experience it for yourself on stream, but at the time of recording this, yeah, he died in his hardcore. Rip Bozo. And so that's what inspired me to get going on this. So today's video is the villager Ferris wheel, where we're going to bring villagers to you. And this is once again 100% for fun. But it's also a good reminder that if you need tons and tons of redstone, you need some XP, villager trading and an iron farm can get you there. So this is what we're going to get to. We're going to go through the steps of how I got there, but this is basically what it does is we hit our button and it's going to feed us villagers that just feed past us so we can do our trades. And then stops them back at their original position so they can get back to their workstation and restock. So let's take a moment and just start it at the beginning. So this is what I started off with the Ferris wheel. So the idea is you come over here, you have villagers sitting in front of you, you press a button, and then it's going to cycle you through villagers. The next villager comes down, boom, there we go. The next villager comes down. And the idea was to have a couple of these next to each other. So several of these in a line, so you can trade with that one, trade with that one, trade with that one, trade with that one. I don't like this because it's not as compact. So we're using piston feed tapes here, as you can see, and we're pushing around the villagers. And that means that there's 3 blocks in between each villager. So you can see we have villager, slab, slab, villager, slab, slab, villager. And because we're using piston feed tapes, we're limited to pushing 12 blocks at a time. So that means there weren't that many villagers in here. There were only 14 villagers per Ferris wheel. I wasn't that excited about it. But, I mean, there were complications in this. So once you get the villagers over here, you know, you had to use the slabs because you can't push a villager into a block. You can push a block into a villager, but you can't push the villager into the block. And then it just kind of got complicated. You know, this worked out nicely because then we just pushed them up. But as you can see, sometimes you would walk into there, then it resets. It's fine. So don't use this one. This is what I moved on to because it can get much more compact. Because when a villager's on a minecart, the villager's hitbox doesn't matter anymore. Only the minecart's hitbox matters. So here we can see I've got a piston in front of the villager's face with that glass block. So I can push the glass block into the villager, but I can't push the villager into the glass block. The piston's just going to go through his head. But if I have the villager in a minecart, not only can I push the block into the villager still, but we can push the minecart because it doesn't need to go into a block, and the villager just gets pushed right into it. So instead of having this really closed concept where you only see the head coming by the player, we have this concept here where you would see a much larger portion of the villager's body, give you a much better chance to actually click on it. So this right here was just the prototype, the concept. We're going to get to the final version. I made it tileable. I made it faster. So we're going to get to the version that actually gets you a fresh villager every about 3 seconds, just a little over 3 seconds. If you want it that fast, or you can slow it down. We've got that customized. But basically, this is the idea. We use these piston feed tapes. So we need to push these blocks down, and then these blocks over, and then these blocks up, and then these blocks over. But we can't push like a block into another block, so we need to do it in reverse order. Basically, we need to push this one down. That creates an open slot here. Then we can push this one over, creating an open slot there, and then this one up, creating an open slot there, and then this one over where that former open slot was, and that's how we're going to end the cycle. So I'm going to hit this note block, go into free cam, and we can see it. Now again, this is slow, but this was just proof of concept. And we can see that villager, he gets pulled along nicely. Because once he gets up to the top, then at that point we're pushing the minecart again, and that minecart is going to go in between those trapdoors. So we can just push the villager along that way and make sure he stays in place. Then it doesn't matter what blocks are in his way. We can see he's even intersecting with these glass blocks. But we don't care because the minecart is what's safe. The minecart sitting on top of the trapdoor is shorter than these other trapdoors, so it gets pushed along in this configuration. Not only that, but it also means that now we can fit more villagers in. So instead of 14, you can fit 21 per wheel because we only have 2 blocks that are taken up. Now we do need to have an odd number, and that's what this glass block is for. Basically, it's just set to red to kind of remind you where the stopping point is. So we need to have an odd number because we do need to have that blank spot to start with that we can push blocks into. But now we just have 2 blocks worth of distance for each villager. So we can see here, there's the bottom trapdoor, there's the top trapdoor. The next minecart can go right on top of there because it's not running in the villager's head, and it stacks nice and neat. The other thing is, technically, we could like 0-tick these pistons and make this even a little bit faster, have that open up quicker. But you'll notice here, I'm even tick warping. Let me turn off the tick warp. It takes a moment for that villager to drop down. So as fast as we wanted to do this, you know, we can handle it on the top and the bottom. This is where it becomes a problem when the villager's got to drop down, that gravity coming into play. So I took that concept, built it up, made it tileable. We have 21 villagers per wheel. You can select which wheels you want to actually activate so that you can keep less entities moving around. So I could just hit this note block and turn on that row. Then I can, for example, I can have a wheel of toolsmiths next to a wheel of clerics and just stand right here, trade back and forth with them. So I'm going to go ahead and activate it. We can either hit this note block or any of these note blocks back here will also activate it. And then I'm going to trade with them. Before I start this up, I do just want to note, I did not go ahead and zombify all these guys. I was working on a bunch of iterations of this. So you would want to zombify them beforehand. We'll get to that a little bit later in the video. But I'm just going to go ahead and run this. And I just gave myself a bunch of iron to start the trade. So I'm going to start this up, right click that note block, and then trade away. There's a little bit of a delay on the startup just so you can get prepped. And there we go. Look at all that redstone dust. And that was just one wheel. Now I could have alternated these to be like toolsmith, cleric if I knew I was going to do that. You can also do this with librarians. So, you know, if you want to get like bookshelves or lanterns, name tags, you want to get glass out of them. You want to do a wheel of farmers. You can get apples so you can make golden apples, golden carrots. Maybe you need a bunch of quartz and you want to do a bunch of masons. Yeah, just again, does this do anything different than a large trading hall? Not really, except it compacts it. So inside this tiny little cube footprint here, we have 168 villagers just ready to trade with. Now, once it stops, you do need to get them to refresh their trade for the next cycle. And we actually have them stopping once again. So we have that counting how many times it's going around. So we can see the redstone block is back, not redstone, red stained glass is back in place to show that they're back at their original spot. So they're back at their original trading station then so they can refresh their trades. So that's how you use the system. Before we go into it more in detail, everything you see here is going to be in the world download. So you can look down in the video description and download this for yourself. Right here, we have a single slice of it. So this is what's tileable. It's 2 wide tileable. This is going to be a fully assembled hull version. Now, there's no reason you couldn't go bigger than this. You know, if you want to add on some more slices, you can. Just do take into account you have villagers in minecarts. So if you're doing this on a big server, maybe not something you want to do like in a main area. So I'm going to turn on MiniHUD. You can see we're at about 19 MSPT, 18, 19, sometimes 20. Now, because we have several iterations of this that we're going to be looking at, there's actually about 300 villagers in the world. That's from all these different slices that we're looking at. There's also some stuff behind me with an iron farm that we're going to look at. So don't take that into account that this is going to be the MSPT of this. Considering 168 villagers in here, even if you were on that in the MSPT, is not that bad. We just saw a spike there, but you're basically going to be about half of the villagers in there. So you're looking at like you've got ambient MSPT in the world of like 3, so like 7 MSPT. Not bad at all. Now, as far as the numbers I was talking about, you saw probably in the thumbnail there was kind of a big asterisk next to the 20,000 redstone. First of all, I'm putting an asterisk there because this is not automatic. You need to come here and do this on a regular basis. But the nice thing is you saw how quickly, just with one cycle, how much redstone dust I was able to get there. So if you don't want to have to AFK a farm for an hour to get that much, you can, if you just need maybe a stack of redstone blocks or just, an inventory full of redstone dust, you just come here, you run this a couple of times. If you got a couple lanes of these, then you're set to go and you can go start your project then. You don't have to wait for it to build up. But basically, here's the number. So starting out with XP, I did mention XP. So you get on average 3 to 6 XP per trade. So we're going to call that an average of 4.5 XP per trade. So trading with those 2 wheels there can get you from level 0 to 45. If you do that again, then you're up to level 66. So in less than one Minecraft day, because this does not take that long to run. I mean, you saw how fast those villagers were coming. We can get up to 11,000 XP. Plus, if you run this multiple times, then it's just even more. So this can actually be a great source of some quick XP too. Hold your tools while you're doing your trading and boom, you're all mended up. Now, we have 21 villagers per wheel, so each slice. So this slice right here is 21, this is 21. You can do 24 trades of iron per villager per day. Now, again, that's trade cycle, so if you don't cure him like I've done here, now you've got 24 times 4 iron that you need to provide, but if you cure him, he'll buy iron for 1, then you can basically do 12 iron in one trade to get the 12 emeralds, and then you can do that twice per day, so that's why we got 24. That means that per wheel, you've got 504 possible trades per day. Now, if you're sleeping regularly, maybe you either have a sleep bot or you're just making sure that you have a bed with you and you're going to sleep, that means you can do 5 trade cycles per hour, which means that you can do 2,505 trades per wheel per hour. Again, you got to be on top of your sleeping to get that, so that's another part of the asterisk. But then you also get 2 redstone dust per emerald, so basically 1 iron ingot with that cured villager then becomes 2 redstone dust. So then that's 5,040 redstone dust per hour per wheel. And if you have 2 wheels, then it's basically 10,000 and add on 4 wheels of clerics, boom, 20,000 per hour. Okay, so what's controlling this? You're probably seeing a lot of observers, and I'm using observers for 2 reasons. One, it's easy to make things tileable when you have observers because then they don't need to compete with the opposing line. But we did have a couple of tricky things, like we need to make sure that we're not actually affecting any of these trapdoors with the observers, because then, like here, the minecart would fall in and then it wouldn't get pushed around anymore. And second reason is because they can add our delay for us. So they can just give us a nice little 2-tick delay for each one, because we do need to give some delay inside the process as it's going around. On top of that, we have the clock over here, which is the main clock for everything. You'll see we just have a little bit of repeaters in here, so we had that little bit of offset in between the 2 villagers coming down. Not really necessary if you don't want to, but I figured, why not trade with one and then get a little bit of time on the extra one to catch him. There is a hole that's open down here for XP to flow. That's the end of my rap career. For XP to flow through, so the player can pick it up as it falls down there. So XP will flow into here as it pops down there if you don't grab it on top of the slab, and that can get all the XP to the player. But then it also gives the opportunity to grab a quick villager if you miss them. As far as the note block here that turns the slices on and off, if you come through while you're trading and accidentally click that, we actually disable this while it's actually running, so that if you're sitting here trading and I go crazy, next thing you click it, you don't turn off there and cause it to break a cycle. So we have an observer line that feeds up to this counter. This is just basically a dropper counter. It's kind of a modification of a hopper clock that we can use, that every time we send a signal in here, we're going to count over. And when it flips, then we can actually take a signal out of observing these pistons changing places. So we have 43 blocks inside there. We need to run it 43 times in order to get it back to its original position. So once we activate this clock, then each time this clock goes off back and forth, it's going to count one more. Once it reaches the maximum count, in other words, one of our droppers is empty, then it's going to kick this block over. And basically what we're doing with this block, the reason it's down here is one, so we don't quasi it on top, but then also it locks this dropper. So even though we're activating both of these with this observer, we can only send it one way. I do have a video on this counter, a little bit more in detail, that I'll link down in the video description. So check that out if you want to know more information. So this we don't want to be variable. We want 43 items inside of there. But this hopper clock right here, this is where we can get a little variable. So you can see in this hopper, we have 2 items, and then this item, 6 items. They don't have to be separate items. I was just using this to test with my different ones. So the fastest you can run this clock without actually breaking anything is 4 total items in the hoppers. So 2 and 2 to start it off with. If you want to slow it down more, you can even add in more. So I was running it in that demo with 6 items in there. You could add in 8, 10, 12, however many items you want to add in there to slow it down a little bit. So you see, when I started doing that process, I was actually using item scroller so that I could just right click and complete the trade. And then I kind of switched over to actually doing the shift click. So I shift clicked to there. If you're having, maybe you're just not that dexterous, or you don't have any of those mods and it's just going a little too fast for you, just throw another item in that hopper clock. Basically, each item inside this hopper clock, that's going to add on another 8 game ticks. So it's just a portion of a second. So you can just add in one at a time, see how you like it, add in another one, and basically go from there. I also did say that when the clock turns on, these also get activated, this brown line, so that these blocks get pulled down, because this is the actual note block that's going to activate or deactivate a slice. So if I accidentally click this note block while I'm trading, you see it's not going to turn on because I can't actually send power to that rail. And detecting power in this rail is what then leads all the way back up. So it just snakes through here. First of all, it turns on our lamp so that we can use our lamp. Again, got to make sure we don't power any trapdoors. So that's why we have to go through a block here. And then goes up here to then remove or place this block here so the observer can send signal to it. Now on this side, we don't have anything deactivating that. So as this line turns on and off, basically we can see in this current setup, just these 2 lines are going to go off. These are all still going to be observed and go off, but it's not a problem because in this case, the pistons can't push anything because they're at push limit. This piston right here, these sticky pistons right next to the line block, need to actually be able to push a block out of the way in order for the rest of everything to be able to move. So even though we're going to still send a signal through each of the slices, it doesn't matter. It's observer signals. It's only every 2 ticks. It's not really that much to worry about at all. You also see we kind of have a funky layout for the workstations because when I started this, I was fine with having like workstations underneath the villagers. Problem is that, things like brewing stands, lecterns, these stone cutters, they're not full blocks, so things don't sit right on there. And then the other thing is things like the smithing table or the fishing barrels. Those are full blocks, so we had to make sure that we put those in places that weren't going to interfere with any redstone signal. So you'll probably see a couple of places where we could have just QC'd through the transparent block like the stone cutter, and I still opted to kind of bend it around a weird way, and that was just so that we made sure that we weren't QCing anything to make sure that we hit those trapdoors. So I'm going to come over here to the version that's not tiled up to just the single slice so we can see. So this is the note block that you do to turn on and off the slice. And all it's going to do is it's going to just use that redstone block for our lamp for a visual indicator. And then that signal also comes up top through this line to then either pull that block out of the way or push it back in so that observer can power the note block. Since this is just a single slice, I'm going to go ahead and put a lever here and just go into free cam so I can activate this manually and we can see what's going on. Once again, we can see this is going to push down, then this, then this, then this. So it's going in the opposite direction of which way it's pushing. We have a little bit of delay here. We're hitting this sticky piston with 2 observers so that it doesn't actually spit out that trap door. This could be either a trap door or a fence gate. It has to be some kind of block that can push down and not get in the way of the villagers. Then we use some extra observers for some extra delay so that this one can go off once that is out of the way. Use this sticky block line to set off that observer each time. where we're then setting off these observers to push this one. And then once again, just a little bit more delay coming off of that so that we can get over here and set off this piston. And again, this glass block right here, this red stained glass block, could be a different type of glass block. We just want to make sure that we do need that odd number of blocks. So we need one here that's not going to be part of a villager. And I'm just using that to show where it's going to go. But it does need to be some kind of transparent block. In other words, non-suffocating. Because as we're going to see, once it gets over here, a villager could actually get his head in there. Sorry, it's actually over here where he's going to get his head in a glass block. Right there. So that's why we want to make sure it's some kind of block that's not going to suffocate villagers. So that's how the system works. I did promise we're going to talk a little bit more about the stuff behind me. So look behind me right here. Obviously, in order to get this, in a functioning state, you're going to need some iron farms and you're going to need some villagers to load it up. So right back here, you could feel free to use your favorite iron farm. There are so many iron farm designs out there. This is one of my mid-game designs, that I call quote unquote mid-game. This can even be upgraded even further. I have the Golem Circus in my 3 levels of iron video. That's 14,000 iron ingots per hour. That'll get you even more. And then over here, we have our villager making station. So we have a villager breeder up here. I've talked about this in a couple of videos in the 3 levels of villager series, in the Hero of the Village Farm video. So I'll put links to those down in the description as well if you want to learn more about this. But basically, this is Method's villager sorter. So this reliably sorts babies into adults. I've seen a lot of methods out there, but I have not seen them act as reliably as this one. This one always gives you adults. They never stay in there. So they end up back here, and then we can spit out a minecart. We can do a trade with him if we want to, preemptively. So trade with him, get him in his profession, and then break that trading station. So I could do like this and do a brewing stand. Let's say I want to be a cleric, although I didn't really talk about... I mean, you could buy other stuff from the clerics. You can buy like glowstone, ender pearls, those types of things from them. But let's do that toolsmith like we talked about. So we'll just trade with him to give him leveled up. And then there we go. So now his trade is locked in. Once we break that, he's no longer going to be assigned to that work table, and we'll get him into his slot in there. But first we'll go ahead and push this button. We'll send him over to the zombie. That one's going to go into our setup. This one's going to get zombified, get ready for curing. You don't have to use this particular setup. I mean, it does mean that you have to do one at a time. You can get yourself a setup where you have like maybe 8 villagers on deck, whatever you want to do there. That's why I did not build this into the actual Ferris wheel itself. There are once again tons of villager system setups out there. So this slice right here next to the concept is just showing all you got to do is just take those slabs out, put those rails in. Again, the minecart will fit under those. The villager will still go through it just fine. So I'm going to just put a villager here on the rail. I don't need that extra one. Now he's mad at me. Great. Get him in a minecart and he'll drop right in there. Then what you need to do is get this cycled over to the next open cell. So there's a few different ways to do this. So that's why I didn't really start it out. You could just have a note block in there and you set off the note block twice. So you just have like an observer line that goes up there or a redstone line to just set that off on a monostable. And then there we go. So let's put that villager in there. Or if you are building it with the repeaters, you can just go ahead and have a repeater that you're just changing the tick on twice in order to get to the new cell. Just remember to do that twice. But I didn't put too much into that because like I said, at the end of the day, like you just get this set up once and you're done. Then the villagers are stored in there. They're ready to go at any time. But this is the reason why you do want to get the villagers zombified and cured first. Because if you just put in zombie villagers in here, you can see they actually sit a little bit differently in that minecart. So their hitbox is actually sitting down below the bottom of it. And I have seen that. We saw it just go successfully. But I did try this with filling it with zombified villagers first. And then, just running around with your weakness potions, hitting them with gapples at that point. But I did see some problems of random backups. So if you want to put in your zombified villagers all in one go and then trade and cure and all that stuff in that order, you have been warned. Then once you've got all the villagers filled in, that's when you can come in and actually put down these job blocks. Because they're stuck in the minecart there and don't think that they can path away, they'll pick the job block that's actually right next to them. And then boom, they're assigned a job block. So that's going to be it for this video. Again, down in the video description will be the world download where you can download this. You can grab these. Just make sure you're grabbing the right ones, like this one where I showed how to get it loaded with villagers. Was actually the original version and it's actually not tileable. So that's why I'm going off of there. If you want to get the actual tileable version, you can either grab a slice from here along with the clock, or you can grab this slice right back here. And then as far as your villager breeder and your iron farm, again, I already know in the comments it's going to be coming, excuse me, but you can actually increase your iron output efficiency in that farm design if you'd actually calculate the actual calculations of calculating your calculations, calculated. So if you're all the way to this point in the video and you haven't been thoroughly put off by my content because of that weird thing that just happened, go ahead and throw it out in the comments that you calculated and it's fine. And then we're all friends. It'll be great. It'll be great. But yeah, you can come look at this if you want an iron farm. This is about 1,000 iron per hour. Just this little one right here. You can make some more modules off of it. This villager breeder, again, this is going to be 6 babies per day. So we have that set up for that they're going to auto breed themselves and spit out those babies, get them ready for you. And I'm also going to go ahead and leave this one in here, even though I don't think that this is very good. Because again, it's less villagers per wheel. I'm going to go and leave it in there. Maybe you want to go ahead and actually finish this off and make this a little more. Let's see. Did I make this tileable? This one should be tileable. Maybe you're on a server where minecarts are just the devil. And, you need something like that. So this is still an option. It's just a third less villagers per wheel, but it still works. So check that out down in the video description. Before I sign off, remember, if something has got you down, if you are not okay right now, don't worry about faking it. It's okay not to be okay. Keep your chin up. Things will get better, I promise you. But in the meantime, it's okay not to be okay. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.